Welcome to The Explainer, where we try to cut through the noise of these huge geopolitical showdowns. Today, we're diving into the war words between the US and Iran, using the source material itself to see what's really going on.
So, it really boils down to this one question. In a war of words, who do you actually believe? That's what we're digging into today, based on an analysis by Ravish Kumar. You're going to see how one side's message is just rock solid and consistent, while the other's is, well, it's constantly changing. It creates this kind of fog of war that's really tough for anyone to see through.
On one side, you have then-President Trump declaring this swift, total victory. He's painting a picture of just absolute American dominance. Case closed, right? Well, not so fast. Almost immediately, that whole narrative gets challenged. Journalists start pointing out that his own administration, his own people, are saying the exact opposite. And this is where the puzzle of mixed signals really begins, right at the very top.
Okay, so let's start by looking at Iran's side of this. According to the source material we're looking at, their messaging has been, incredibly consistent. Just this unwavering cry of defiance.
For weeks, Iran's public statements have been like a drumbeat. They're clear, they're aggressive, and they do not budge. There's no gray area here. The message is pretty simple. We're in this for the long haul, and we are absolutely not backing down.
And this isn't just tough talk. It's apparently backed by some serious long-term planning. The source brings up this thing called the fourth successor policy. It's a strategy they've supposedly been working on for 20 years. It means for every single key position, military or otherwise, they have multiple successors ready to go. This isn't a country planning for a quick fight. They're dug in for a long, drawn-out war.
And this defiance, it has teeth. Iran has shown it can really strike back, with reports of significant damage to U.S. and Israeli military assets. So this ability to both take a punch and throw one back gives their words some serious weight.
Okay, now let's flip the coin and look at the other side of this communication battle. As you'll see, the messaging coming out of the Trump administration paints a very, very different and much more confusing picture. This slide just perfectly captures the heart of the confusion. You have President Trump making statements that directly contradict each other, sometimes in the exact same sentence. The war is over, but it's also just beginning. It's a paradox that left a lot of people just scratching their heads.
And when a journalist tried to get some clarity, Trump's response just made things even weirder. Both can be said. That's not a clarification. He's just leaning into the contradiction. It left the whole world wondering, is this some kind of brilliant, ambiguous strategy, or is there just no clear strategy at all?
And this wasn't just a one-off thing. It was a clear pattern. The administration's messaging was all over the place. One day, there's a hint of talks with Iran. The next, a threat of an attack 20 times greater. One minute, a ground invasion is off the table. The next, they're talking about specific targets. This constant whiplash didn't just confuse the media, it kept everyone, including America's own allies, totally off balance.
So, what's the real-world cost of all this confusion? Well, the impact is felt most sharply by America's allies. They're the ones caught in the fallout of these mixed signals, which creates a ton of instability and doubt. Key allies, like Saudi Arabia, were obviously hesitant to jump in with both feet. And that frustration became really public when Senator Lindsey Graham, a huge Trump supporter, actually called them out. He basically asked, why should we have a defense deal with a country that won't stand with us? It was a really rare public look at the deep cracks that were starting to form in the alliance. And beyond the political drama, there was a staggering financial cost. According to the source, Pentagon officials were reporting over $7 billion in U.S. losses in just 1 week. That's a very real price tag for a conflict with a very unclear goal.
This unpredictability was causing some serious anxiety, even for America's closest allies. In Israel, the fear wasn't just about Iran. It was about the U.S. Reports claimed Israeli officials were genuinely worried that Trump could just wake up one morning, declare victory, and pull everyone out, leaving them completely exposed.
So what was driving all of this? This really brings us to the political endgame. The analysis we're looking at suggests that for the leaders involved, foreign policy wasn't being guided by some grand strategy, but by good old-fashioned domestic politics.
And this is where we see this really fascinating paradox. The source lays it out. You have two allied leaders who seem to be using the exact same war for completely opposite political reasons. Trump, with an election coming up, needed to end the war to make his base happy.
At the same time, Netanyahu allegedly needed the conflict to continue to shore up his own political support back home. So how did the US get into this spot in the first place? Well, the analysis suggests it might have been a trap. It argues that Trump was listening to businessmen advisors who just completely misjudged Iran's resolve, and that led the administration into a mess that was way more complicated and costly than anyone saw coming.
And that all brings us to the final, really critical question this analysis leaves us with. When the whole machinery of war is being steered by domestic politics and election schedules, who's the one that truly pays the price on the world stage?